Hello, this is Juan Pardo. Today we're talking about local nature recovery strategy, which is a mandatory system under the 2021 Environment Act. But the local nature recovery strategy is something more. It goes further. It brings together different approaches and partners to improve land, air, and water resources. Today, we're talking to Richard Brooks, which is on my right, and Paul Killip, all my life from Leicestershire County Council. Richard is a landowner and farmer at Wistow Estate. Richard decided last year to change how some of his land is used, still keeping an element open for enjoyment and benefit of local people. But also, he has started a long-term commitment to support his land in a different way, giving it the chance to recover and supporting climate prevention measures. We're also talking to Paul Killip, who is working on this strategy from Leicestershire County Council. This is Conversations About, run by the Communities team at Leicestershire County Council. We have a playlist with many other ones you can find on the Leicestershire Communities. It will be available on the YouTube channel. But I start with Paul first. How do you think the local nature recovery strategy can help, in practical terms, local farmers, but also communities, to be agents of change on the strategy itself?
Thanks, Juan, and nice to speak to you all. It's a great question. I think local native recovery strategies are, or in the simplest terms, they're a series of maps on a local level, look at what the priorities are for nature recovery and how to go about achieving those. So having those maps publicly available for landowners and communities to see, they can see how they can come together to help nature recovery. Now, for landowners and farmers, it really will depend on where they are and the size of their property and what their ambitions are and what of land they have available. It might actually be used for food production right now. So there are a series of different financial incentives that are there. Then they'll be changing over time. The strategies we need to think about these as long-term, even a 100-year strategy. The things will change over time, but the needs of the land to nature recovery will stay pretty much similar until we start to capturing. So for the farmers and landowners, there's opportunities to understand what they could do and what could support applications for funding. And for communities, it's a good idea to get a sense of what they could do together as a community and support their local farm businesses and the rural community by pulling together to help not just help nature, but wider environmental benefits like flooding, climate adaptation, air quality, and access to green spaces. So there's lots and lots of things that you can do through incorporating a local nature perspective into your life. And yeah, so that's what I can do, and that's what they do. But you are actually practically taking this on board, and you're going to start to take action on your land. So, can you tell me a bit about what you're doing and some of the challenges you're facing, and also really what motivates you to do it?
Yeah, Paul. Lots of questions in there, but I think from the start here, I come from the point of view of farmers. I think all see themselves as more custodians of the nature and the landscape and piece of England. So we want it to be there in 2 generations, 3 generations, 10 generations time. The past 50 years since the Second World War, plus 70 years, the emphasis has been on food production. And I think that's changing quite dramatically now. There are certain initiatives on rewilding. There's what we're talking about here on my own scheme, a biodiversity net gain scheme, which are environmental benefits and will have, as they go through for the next 20, 30, 40 years, have increasing benefits. We've still got to produce food and we've still got to supply energy to the country. And so I see farmers now as having 3 strings to their bow where they're ADT with food production, energy production, and environmental benefits. So coming to the particular point here is the environmental and ecological side. This is a 30-year scheme that we're embarking on, where we've got about 80 acres of meadows down at Wistow here, either side of the River Thames. And they do flood occasionally, in particular in January, very bad flooding. We've always had and grown hay meadows and raised sheep and cattle on it quite intensively. So we've used fertilizers and we've used sprays. So that means that actually the variety of flora and fauna in the pasture is quite abuse. There's probably only 6 or 8 species. And what we're trying to achieve now is a matrix of about 30 different species of grasses and herbs and flowers on the areas that we're protecting for the future. That has to be drilled in over the next, there'll be another set of drilling in autumn this year. And then it will become a hay meadow in summer with a lot more species, hopefully for the bugs and the bees, the butterflies. It'll encourage, all those will help them encourage the wildlife, and maybe otters along the river, and maybe kingfishers and bird life. And what we then want to do is extrude people from this equation. So in this instance, we've got footpaths across the fields, which people have wandered off in the field paths. Now we are actually fencing people away from their nature, which sounds a bit harsh, but you can't have nature and dogs running around all over the place, and you can't encourage the wildlife to thrive with that intrusion by the couple. And so we've got walkways for the public, and we've got areas, fields, most of the fields will be now hay meadows with occasional grazing in the spring and the autumn with sheep and some belted Galloway cattle that we've got in the field at the moment. So that's the theory. The challenge is to make sure that everyone knows enough about it. I think we want this to be, if we've raped and pillaged the land for the last 70 years to maximize food production, we've got to put some back into the soil. We've got to increase the earthworms and bug and bee. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. Other parts of the farm will be still in pre-connection. So you're not going to starve hope fruits. But we do want to mix the environmental benefits as well as the fruit.
So, Richard, thanks very much for that, and Paul as well. Finally, I guess it's a question for both with different specialities. What advice, in your case, Richard, would you give to any other farmers or landowners, land managers, if they want to do something similar?
I think every farm is going to be different. Every farmer is going to be different. I mean, I'm committing here to a 30+ year scheme. What we could have here in 35 years' time is almost a wildlife reserve or a nature reserve in its broadest sense. A lot of farmers blame me by that. And certainly the commitment to 30 years, they might not be able to see themselves to move forward. They may be farmers only got tenants of plans, but they only have a year-to-year occupation. So there's quite a lot of people who can't make that long term. But there is equally, I know most farmers are great country people too, and they want to help the country survive and be beautiful as long as possible.
Thank you very much. And Paul, from your point of view and in practical terms, this is obviously one perspective, from the perspective of communities and people who use the land, any sort of advice, and how is that a strategy in practical terms? How does it affect people? What can they do?
Right now, the most important thing is we come together. This is the early days, and the strategy is only just about a few months from now. So working together is what's going to help deliver the strategy. Everybody has a different skill set, and nobody can do this in isolation. The farmers and the landowners, the communities, the local government, the agencies can't be used in isolation, but coming together collectively, we do have the resources to do things, and we can start at small things. Like schools can get involved, with wildflower meadows or pond creation. Communities can do things to manage their wild villages and parishes, but they can also influence maple plans or local plans. And there's lots and lots to do, but it's all going to start with a big conversation getting behind this.
Thank you.